You were one of those guys that had to have surgery on your elbow called Tommy John. So I think you're the perfect guy to do this series.
Yeah, this is a crazy series that, we're going to go into this whole week. But when you look at it right now, I had it, I went through it, I got back to the big leagues, and it was a great thing. But the biggest thing for me was sitting down and being able to talk to Dr. Mark Schickendance. And I asked him where the ulnar collateral nerve is, or ligament, and how the injury happens. And here's what he had to say.
This is an arm, just like my arm right here, right arm. So this is the inside. This yellow band here is the funny bone nerve, the ulnar nerve. And right below that, between the end of the humerus bone here and what's called the ulna bone down here, is where the ulnar collateral ligament sits. The original description was that it's about 3 centimeters long from about here down to here. We recently published a study that shows that its attachment is actually all the way down here. It's a little bit longer than we thought originally. It actually goes down about 5 centimeters or so. It's about 5 millimeters thick and about 1 centimeter or so wide, and its job is to provide stability to the inside of the elbow when the athlete is throwing. So you can imagine with the throwing motion, the forces tend to make that elbow gap open, and that puts that ligament under stress. So that ligament is there and designed to help stabilize the inside of the elbow against that type of stress.
Doc, how does a player develop this injury, though? You were just explaining, where the ligament is, but is it overuse? Is it not enough stretching? Is it not knowing your body?
There's a multitude of factors, I think, that play into it, and we haven't studied all of them, but we do know about some of them. And certainly in the younger athlete, the problem of overuse comes into play. We know that a young athlete who pitches year-round is constantly stressing that area, putting more strain across it, and that ligament then is probably more subject to injury as a result of that. We know that there are certain things about a thrower's shoulder that can contribute to increased strain on the ligament. For instance, if the back of the shoulders are very tight, that relates to increased stress across the ligament. Other injuries can lead to increased stress based on change in mechanics, very subtle changes in mechanics, dropping the arm, flying open, those sorts of things that you as a pitcher understand mechanically. Certainly strength of the forearm. There's some thought about in young pitchers maybe staying away from breaking balls and those sorts of things that can impart increased stress across the ligament as well. So yeah, there are a multitude of things that can play into it.
When you do the surgery, typically how long would a surgery take? And then you talk about the tendon being replaced by the ligament, or the ligament being replaced by the tendon. Where do you take that tendon from?
We use, actually I can show you on my hand, we use this tendon right here. It's called the palmaris longus. We make a single little incision. We have a little tool we can go up and we can harvest that from the forearm. That doesn't leave any weakness in the forearm. That's been studied. So that's a very benign, safe thing to do. With regards to how long it takes, yeah, typically it's about 60 to 80 minutes, 60, 75 minutes or so to do that operation. The recovery is the long part, and we can talk about that as well.
Well, Doc just mentioned about the recovery time, and you can see the rest of this week we are going to have different segments about Tommy John surgery. Tomorrow we'll get some players' perspective from the Indians that have had this surgery. You look at Wednesday, Tigers and Twins, some guys from the AL Central that we were able to get. Then Dr. Schickendance talks about the rehab process, and it is a long rehab process that is not a lot of fun.
Going into this, though, I mean, how did you feel about it? Did you feel like this is definitely going to work, or was there some doubt there?
Oh, there was a lot of doubt, and I had second and third opinions on this surgery. We went out to Anaheim. I actually had Yoakum look at it, and he said, you're probably going to have the surgery. I went down and saw Dr. James Andrews at the same time, and he probably said that I was going to have the surgery. And sure enough, I was still down there. I had the surgery the next day.
And you threw just as hard after the surgery as you did before, right?
I did. I threw a little bit harder, but the thing for me was the rehab process. People don't realize those 12 months, you don't have a life. Right. You're constantly in the weight room. You're constantly training to strengthen that elbow and the shoulder.